welcome to my Applied Sports Analytics assignment 2. So this is the presentation of the project that I submitted just last week. So the subject that I chose was Manchester City 2014-15 season. My main research question was finishing second and why did we fall short? So I just want to go into the different factors that could have contributed to that, and then I'll also show you the method that I used to obtain my data. So if we look at the league table from 14-15, you can see we finished seconds. So we've just highlighted here. Unfortunately, we weren't able to win the league. We fell about 8 points away from Chelsea, so we weren't able to come out on top with 2 less wins than them and also 2 less draws. So from that, we can understand it's not that much of a difference, but then if we start to factor in the losses, we had a significant amount of losses compared to them, 7 versus 3. So we just want to find out where we lost those games, at what point during the season did we lose those games, and what can we do in the future to prevent them. So we look at possible reasons why. Was it injuries? Did injuries play a factor? Sometimes there's potentially the winning teams will have less injuries. We want to see how we win in that scale. How was our home and away form? Did we win enough games at home? Did we win enough games away versus the champions Chelsea? What was our form like at the start of the season, and how did we finish? So was the season over before we even started? So we need to make sure that we're doing the right thing from the start of the season. We're approaching every game like it's the last game we're going to play, to ensure that we get on top of the opponents from the get-go. What was our form like during critical periods? So a critical period could be a time where, for example, Chelsea's winning a lot of games. Did we drop that time? So did they run away with it? Was it a Champions League period? Best and worst, how do we fare against the top 4 teams and the bottom 4 teams? So often the better teams are going to be harder games, so we may drop points there, but did we drop points against teams that we should have won against? Potentially the way they played, it was hard for us to win, and we should have got results where we may not have. Champions League, was Champions League a factor? So that's something that's really interesting. Man City, being the club it is, always wanting to do well in every tournament that they're in particular the Champions League, and in particular this season where the pressure was on, we need to start doing well. So was there a point during the season where this occurred, and did results be affected because of that? And the last one is just how do we compare to the champions Chelsea? Points away versus points at home, and just in general along the season, what was the points ratings as they went on? So I'll just do there's a fair bit going on in this slide, but just a quick analysis and method. So I looked at the correlation between injuries and the standing for the season, using COUNTIF and substitute functions to analyse the results. Conditionally formatted a lot of results to observe trends. That is a basic traffic light system, green, yellow and red, just to see where the wins, losses and draws were. Calculated the points dropped throughout the season, so where and when. Then it calculated the percentage of these points dropped against different opposition. Match result against the time of the season, using results to produce graphs looking at results versus the champions Chelsea. And then there was a fair bit of extensive research into the overall season, including other fixtures like FA Cup, Carling Cup, Champions League, as well as other factors that may have influenced performance. And then I'll put it all through a pivot table to look at these points per month. So did injuries play a role? So this is just days lost to injuries in the EPL season 14-15 and the position on the ladder. So you can see here we're in red, finishing second. There's clearly not a significant relationship between the amount of injuries and your position on the ladder. As you can see here, the team that finished 14th had just about the same amount of injuries as the team that finished first and us in second. So that was not really a factor when it came to how many games we won and where we finished on the ladder. So head to head, Man City versus Chelsea, where we finished. So if we look at home, they beat us at home. If we look away, they beat us away. So clearly they had more points than us, but they were just better home and away throughout the season. So that's just saying that straight from the get-go, we need to improve for the following season. So head-to-head points versus rounds. So round being on the x-axis, points being on the y-axis. So as you can see here, we're in the light blue. So we're always trailing the whole way. But an interesting point, as you see here in the yellow, we actually draw level on points. So that's a midway point through the season. So you can see that we had a poor start here in red. So that's something we need to improve. But then we come good the end stage of before the half of the season. But then what happens here is that we come level and then we drop away again. So this period here, something must have happened, and my hypothesis is that it was the Champions League, which we can see here, during this period that potentially affected results. So we'll have a look at that in more detail. So the points dropped. Total, we lost 35 points all season. At home, 12 points. So 34% of points we lost at home, which isn't great, and we need to improve, but it's not as bad when we compare to what our points were lost away. A massive 65.7% of our points were lost away. But what's more concerning is if we look here, top four, bottom half, and bottom four, and then we compare these two, is that 60% of the points we lost throughout the season were against either a top four or a bottom four opposition. So that just goes to show that, yes, the games are hard at the top, but also as we go to the lower levels, it's just as hard. So we need to make sure that we're putting these teams away. And you can see here is the game we did lose against QPR, and the top-sided team, Chelsea, which we also didn't get away full points. We drew both times. So it's something that we definitely need to improve on if we're going to win the league in the future. So back to my hypothesis from before, the Champions League turning point. So this is a fact. After losing the first leg of the Champions League match against Barcelona on the 25th of February, we went on to lose 4 games out of 6 in the Premier League. So that's not even including the second leg where they also lost. Okay, where we also lost. So the season was virtually over in March. So what I'm trying to get at is that during that period, whether there was external pressures, whether there was anxiety around the Champions League game against Barcelona that caused us to not focus on the league as much, we actually went on to drop many points during that period. So not only did we lose against Barcelona, we got knocked out of the Champions League, but we also went on to lose 4 out of our 6 games in the Premier League, which after that happened, Chelsea went on a little run and the season was over. So the take-home message there is that game potentially cost us the season. So it's one of those things where going forward we need to improve our psychology around these types of moments. And the more the club's involved at that level, the better we'll get. But at the same time, it was a very much a critical period in the season where we dropped points and potentially could have been around the anxiety around a Champions League clash against Barcelona. So, were there any other factors to be considered throughout the season? So, look, we can look at squad rotation throughout the season. That's something that we didn't look into. The average age of the squad, so I looked into our average age, which is around 30, versus the champions Chelsea, which is about 27. Most statistics show that champion teams are between the ages of 27 and 28 as an average. So we're a little bit over what we probably need to be, especially with the amount of games that we're playing. Were there any other psychological measures that we can look at in the future? They weren't measured during the study. The physical and mental fatigue throughout the season, again, we don't have any data on that we can observe and interpret to say that yes, maybe our loads were high throughout a certain period, but I think in general we were pretty good from what I understand. Weather conditions did play a role, and then also the pressure to back up a title, because we have come off winning a title. Was it now in the back of our mind, let's just focus more on the Champions League and not too much on the Premier League, which resulted in us probably going too much the other way, and then that cost us results. So that's just something to think about as well. So recommendations for next season, just in a little bit more detail. On the next slide I'll go just a basic summary. So we need to improve our approach to the start of the season to ensure better results in the first 10 games, because we did start quite poorly and Chelsea was already running away with it. Approach each game with the same intent. Do not prioritise the Champions League over league games. I think that's probably the take-home message from all of this, is that we need to approach each game like it's our last, because it could be too late if we're doing that and not focusing on the lesser opposition where we did drop a lot of points. Improve our away record, that's a basic one. So we can potentially look at reviewing our away match preparation, if that was a factor. Win more games against top 4 and bottom 4 sides. So we need to obviously get up for the big games, but at the same time we need to get up for the lesser games against poor opposition. And whether that's a tactical thing, whether that's a psychological thing, that's something that we need to have a look at in more detail. And then just in general, improve our psychological state following a loss or a draw to ensure we bounce back with a win. So there's going to be times where we won't get the result we're after, but we need to come back and approach the next game with a clear mind and try and get the results. We can't be hung on any poor result that we may have throughout the season. So in summary, that's where we want to be. That was last year. To do that, I believe these are the 5 points that we need to achieve. Fastest start to the season. Every game counts, absolutely every game. Carling Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League, we need to win everything. We need to have that mindset. We must improve our away record. That's going to help. We lost too many points away. We must improve our results against top 4 and bottom 4 sides. And we must improve our psychology post an unwanted result, as I mentioned in the previous slide. So I think in general it was a really interesting season. We did okay. Our expectation is to win, so technically it was a failure of a season. But if we're going to approach these 5 points, plus other factors that we'll look into more detail, and I'm sure other people in the club will as well, then I'm sure we can get a better result in the future. Thanks for listening to my presentation.